Hi, this is
Hello.
hi. Hi, this is Mark Arnold on another episode of Fun Ideas Podcast. And today we have an author that has written a book about Laura La Plante. She is also Laura, but her name is Laura Jerrolds. So welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Mark. Thank you for so much for having me.
Thank you. Where do you hail from? I'm from Oregon, so I was just curious.
Oh yeah, I live in Florida, so I think we're like 3 hours difference, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
It's
I'm in the
still morning
future.
here, but that's okay. It's and I'll say what day we're recording, even though this will probably go out a month from now. It's like it is July 4th, Independence Day, so there we
Yeah.
are. So anyway, uh, odd day to record, but a good day to record because I'm off work. So anyway,
Yes, me
um,
too.
it looks like I was doing a little research on you and research on the actress you wrote about. It looks like you've written a few other books prior to this. So I guess tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of go over those books before it led to your current project that we're going to really discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started writing books during the pandemic, and the first one is Help. It's 1928. That is a time travel story where our main character is going to go back in time to the 1920s. So as I was writing that book, I kind of saw it maybe being like a mini series. So I thought, okay, we could have different characters who go back in time, but they're all kind of linked. So it's three modern girls. They're all best friends in college. So then, like the second book, it's called Wait, it's 1884. So same concept. The girl accidentally goes back in time to the 1880s, and then she meets a character, and then the third book, this one just came out, I want to say in March. It's called Look, it's 1955.
Hmm.
And that one is more about old Hollywood. So that was kind of exciting to bring in the other interests I have. So she goes back in time to 1950s Hollywood and meets an actress and they look alike. So they switch places. That's probably my favorite one. And that kind of wrapped up the trilogy and made me really just want to focus mainly on nonfiction. I really love nonfiction.
Hmm. Just curious about the time travel trilogy.
Yeah.
How did they travel through time in the series?
Oh yeah. It's a little different each way.
Oh, okay.
Um, so like the first, I'll give you like the first one. She's given like a key necklace,
Hmm.
and when she puts it on, it makes her go back in time, and she didn't know that. And to get her back in time. I won't spoil anything, but it's
Okay.
not what she expects.
Okay. I was just asking because, in different films,
Yeah.
Back to the Future, they use a DeLorean, and Bill and Ted, they use a phone booth, things like that. So,
Yeah.
just kind of curious the method of transportation. So there we go.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you're interested in older time periods,
Mhm.
and what brought about that interest, and then what led you to this actress, Laura LaPlante, to cover
Yeah,
as
for sure.
topic?
I would guess I'll go back way far with my
Yeah.
childhood.
Okay.
I was introduced to Nancy Drew books very young. And I think they was written in the 1930s. So I've always really loved the past.
Hmm.
So I want to say like Nancy's probably like the inspiration that led me to wanting to write kind of about time travel, just because like I always kind of want to go back in time myself.
Hmm.
Um, but it was while writing the first book, Help, it's 1928, that I became really obsessed with the 1920s. And I Googled 1920s Laura because my name's Laura. So, and then when Laura LaPlante came up, I was just like, wow, this person's so incredible. And they don't have a book. And I really wanted to read one more than I wanted to write one. And it's like, well, it hasn't been written. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
kind of how I've done my books. It's like there's no book about this topic. Let's write one. It's so
Yes, exactly.
uh,
Sometimes we have to be the one to do it if no one else will. So,
now I hate to say, even though I have a pretty lengthy knowledge of films, although my film knowledge on silence have to be a little bit limited, except for like comedies and things like that. I don't think I officially ever heard of Laura LaPlante. So was that your discovery then, finding her on the internet and then it just took it from there?
for sure. Yeah, I don't think she's as well remembered because I feel like there's other ones that people seem to remember, like, Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Lillian Gish, like the bigger ones.
Right.
But at her time in the 20s, I mean, she was very, very popular. She was one of the first to have like the really light blonde hair, like she's kind of like original blonde bombshell.
Hmm.
And some of her films are still well remembered. Maybe people don't know it's her, but like The Cat and the Canary, the 1927 film, and she did the first adaptation of Showboat.
Mm,
So some of her films, it's like they're very remembered, but maybe people don't know so much about her as a person.
right. And I may have seen some of those. I know I saw the later Cat in the Canary with Bob Hope, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I have seen a few more straight, serious silent films over time, but yeah, I probably wouldn't have known that she was in it because I don't always focus on the credits. I'm just wanting to see this film.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, she did do it from what I kind of went through the book. Films with like some cowboy stars like Tom Mix and Hoot Gibson and things like that early on and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what I didn't read or didn't get clear because I, was skimming it honestly, is like, did she have difficulty getting into the industry, or is it pretty easy since it was pretty early on in the film industry?
Yes and no. Like, so she had a little bit of a connection, so that helped her to get her foot in the door.
Hmm.
But I think she found once she got in, it wasn't easy to stay relevant. So sometimes she went through periods where maybe she'd do a few Westerns, but then no one wanted to hire her. So it's like she found that part difficult. Whereas getting an actual first job didn't seem too hard because it was her cousin that lived next to like scenario writers and they knew like either a director or producer. So they could kind of get her in.
Hmm.
She definitely did struggle, especially in the beginning, to kind of break out of that Western star. Like most women like they didn't really want to be just like, oh, the damsel in distress. They kind of wanted to
Right.
have, yeah. So she struggled with that a little bit.
Hmm. And again, we mentioned the Cat and the Canary. Was that considered like her biggest hit film during the silent era?
It was for
Mhm.
sure.
Okay.
And it's funny because she didn't think it was best suited for her because she preferred comedies. So even though it was such an important role, like she was always curious, like, why did they want me for something that's like a little bit more serious with, a little bit more of a thriller?
Hmm. And then, mentioning Showboat again, uh, that was a talkie, right? Even though it was 1929, it was in that period, right? It wasn't silent, right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's so funny. That's
Mhm.
actually such a funny story. They record or so it was filmed as a silent.
Okay.
And as they were editing it, they were like, oh no, we need to add sound because the industry was changing. So all the sound you do here in the film was dubbed in later.
Hmm.
And some of the people couldn't come back to record. So they just picked, random people and Laura in the film, she sings, but it's not really her singing voice.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mess, but
Did she re-record her or record her own voice at least on the talking
yeah.
parts? Oh,
Yeah, the
okay. So,
talkie parts are her. Yeah, but they didn't. And it's funny because I've heard that from her daughter. Her daughter said she could sing very well. So I don't know if they just wanted someone that maybe a little bit more professional singer. Like,
yeah.
but
But I mean, they did
yeah,
that later on, like,
that's true.
My Fair Lady and the original West Side Story, things like that. They had dubbed in singers and things like that. So, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Let's see. Now, how did you do a lot of your research since she's kind of, I'll just say it, she's kind of a forgotten star in a certain respect.
Yeah.
So was it easy to find information about her, or did you have to really dig hard and travel around and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, some was easier to find than other bits. Like her later years, sometimes it's like I could find like a little glimpse of an article somewhere. I would say
Mm,
newspaper articles were probably like my most helpful.
hmm.
Reaching out to people was helpful too, who either knew her or different museums and archives. I did a little bit of traveling. I did some research at UCLA, which was really fun. And then
Hmm.
I went to the George Eastman Museum and Museum of Modern Art in New York City. So did some traveling. A lot of it really was online. Some of the archives online are just incredible. They have so much to dig through, and it's like putting a puzzle together,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then I know a lot of her films are lost because I saw the list on
Yeah.
Wikipedia, but of the films that are available, did you try to watch as many as you could?
I did. Yeah, my trip to UCLA, we got to watch 7 of the movies. That was really cool because a lot of them it's like most people haven't seen them, and I wish that they would come out of like the vaults. I always think of it as I wish they'd be released.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but there are a lot that are available just either on YouTube or DVD, so that makes me happy that
Hmm.
she is accessible still.
You know, well, your book might actually cause UCLA to like think about saying, "Oh, okay, well now there's interest in this person,"
I hope so.
and do
Yeah.
some connections with some studio to get it released or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, Now she didn't do a lot of uh, talking pictures. What do you feel is the reason for that? Because there's various reasons why certain people didn't make it from silent to sound films, but what was her reason, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, she had the voice for it. Like she really has a very good speaking voice.
Hmm.
For her, I really think that she just wanted to get married and have children.
Hmm.
Because so she got married in 1934 for the second time, and then retired in 1935. And then she had 2 kids. So I really just think that she wanted to kind of live a more traditional life. And she did come back later and do a couple little appearances, a few more films, but she's always just really wanted to be a mother and just live a normal life.
Okay. Well, in a certain way, that's good to hear because you always hear horror stories,
Yeah.
and you mentioned it, it's like she had a good voice, which sometimes
Yeah.
you hear the stories of people when, like if you've seen Sound of Music, not Sound of Music, excuse me, Singing in the Rain, that's what I was trying to say, where, it's like they do silent films and then suddenly they have this awful speaking voice when they come to sound films and things like that. And
Yeah, for
but
sure. Not everyone, yeah, could transition as well. Yeah, she transitioned very well. And it didn't bother her. She was like, "Oh, I guess we're talking now." It didn't scare her the way it scared so many of them.
right. Okay. And then I think I don't know if I read this in your book or if I read it somewhere else. At some point, she was considered to possibly be a replacement for Myrna Loy in the Thin Man series. Is that a true story?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it
But
was probably the third or fourth film. It did again, it fell through, but it would have been really interesting to see. I almost wish we could have, although no one could do it as well as Myrna Loy. Like that was
mhm.
just her
Do you
role.
know the
But
details behind that? Because I thought both of them, Myrna Loy and William Powell, actually liked working with each other. Maybe not for Thin Man
yeah,
all the time, but I mean, they did other films together and things like that. So,
they
do you
did.
know the
Yeah,
reason why Myrna Loy might have possibly wanted to back out?
they just and the articles that I could find it said, oh, she was gonna get married and gonna retire. I believe
Okay.
this was 1937, so like it was a little bit into the series.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened. I mean, she ended up doing it obviously, and then MGM kind of dropped Laura because they picked her up for a little bit because they thought that they really wanted her for the replacement.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting to see if it
Yeah,
had
it would have been.
happened. Yeah.
But I think what they ultimately did, didn't they just space out the last couple Thin Man films so they weren't churning them out like one a year? They like waited
Yeah.
2 or 3 years or more or something like that. Anyway, yeah, because I've seen documentaries on William Powell and Myrna Loy, and they never mentioned that, to my knowledge, that she was tired of doing the series or wanting to start a family or anything like that. But I get it. I mean, obviously, you said Laura was the same way. She wanted to start a family. So,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's
So,
interesting.
um, I didn't really read into Laura's relationships. Did she have a successful relationship or plural relationships in her life? Or
Yeah.
so tell us
Yeah,
about that a little bit. So,
absolutely. So she married her director in 1926, William Sider.
mhm,
They had, I want to say, about a 7-year relationship, and it was happy. They just weren't compatible at the end. They were better off as friends, and they actually stayed friends forever. Like until he passed away, she went to his funeral.
mhm,
And so she got divorced from Bill in 1934, and then a few months later, she married producer Irving Asher, and they were just happy in love and forever again until they both passed away. And it really is interesting because it's like it seems like she really found the one, but
mhm,
she didn't really have any other relationships that are known. It was just her two husbands,
Hmm.
and she had one of the most amicable divorces in Hollywood that I've ever heard of. Like they were just fine with it. It
Hmm.
was nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And children? Yes, no?
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
her first would be Jill, and that was a daughter. And
Hmm.
then son would be Tony. And Tony Douglas Asher, he wrote songs with the Beach Boys. So that's just
Hmm.
so cool to find
Wow.
out. Like,
Yeah,
yes.
I knew that, but I didn't know there was any relation to this, so that's
Yes.
pretty cool. Okay.
And Jill passed away in 2013, but yeah, but Tony's still alive living in California.
Hmm. Did you get a chance to talk with him or no? Or
I didn't. I did
oh,
try. It was
happens.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping I could. I found I don't even know if this is where he still lives, but I did find like an address. I hope that doesn't sound creepy, but I
Yeah.
wrote a letter and I never heard back. So, but so I hope he like I would love if I could send him the book or something. And
Right. And
yeah.
there's still a chance. I mean, I did a book on Total Television, which is about the studio that did Underdog and things like that. And I actually reported in my initial book that this man named Harvey Siegel, who was a guy behind the scenes, had passed away. And actually, he is still alive. He's in his late 90s now.
Oh
But,
wow.
so I'm like, gulp, because after I did the book, I did a little more research or something, and we somehow connected. So 5 years after I put out the original book, I interviewed him. So I said, I'll interview you now, because I never know when I'll update it or do something different. I ended up doing a second book, like a scrapbook, and I put that interview in there, and with apologies saying, he's still alive, folks. Here's the interview I did. So yeah,
Oh,
if you
that's
do get a later
amazing.
interview, you might update your book or, make a second book or something. It's like totally up to you. But
That's a great idea. Yeah, for
so,
sure. I would love to do like a second edition because I know sometimes it's like there's information out there that maybe I didn't find and I want it
right.
to always be up to date, and like, yeah, it's a
Hmm.
great point.
Hmm. And I know other people, they've updated books and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
it's always out there, if you suddenly say, you know, wow, I got this great interview, and it's like, oh, but my book's been out 6 months. Do a second edition. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a great point.
People who really care, they'll buy it again, and you'll have a reason to update it, So there we go.
For sure.
Um, I guess I can't ask this, but originally I didn't know when you were going, what your relationship to her. But one of my questions was, did you actually meet her? Because she passed away in 1996. So theoretically, it's not that far ago that she passed away. But you said you did talk to people that actually knew her, or what type of people did you talk to? If you can name drop a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh yeah. But just to add in that, no, I she passed away when I want to say I was 1.5 years old.
Okay.
So I feel
Time
happy for
flies.
her.
In
Yeah.
96, I was still an adult, but anyway. Anyway.
But I wish I could have. Yeah, I think so in the book she started doing sculpting. So it was
Mhm.
Albert Wine. He had already passed away, but his stepdaughter, she talked with me and she actually used to go over to Laura's house. And so she met Irving and Laura. They would cook dinner for her. So I got to interview her, which was really cool. And she sent an amazing photo that's in the book of
Mhm.
Laura when she's probably in her 60s.
Mhm.
And I also spoke with one of Jill, that's Laura's daughter, one of her boyfriends,
Mhm.
on the phone, and we so it wasn't people who were too close to them, but it was still really awesome to be like, wow, you knew Laura La Plante. Like that's
Mhm.
just crazy to me.
Well, I mean, it seems almost like impossible to find somebody at this point, but you never know. So you
For
did
sure. Yeah.
it. um, what do you feel? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but what do you feel the part of her life that was hardest to research? I think you said the later years, and why was that?
Yeah, I would say maybe after her last movie ever was 1956.
Hmm.
So after that, it's like I was just getting crumbs, like, but I think she just wanted to live more privately because after Irving retired, they lived in Palm Desert.
Hmm.
Sometimes there would be like local things that they were doing. So I looked at the newspaper archives. I think it was the Desert News. That's the paper, I think. Yeah. And it was like sometimes I get little nuggets here and there of things they were doing. I think they really just wanted to live out of the spotlight at that point and kind of
Yeah.
just, you know,
But she did
65.
actually, achieve a little sense of fame because I mean, she did get one of the stars on the Hollywood sidewalk and stuff like that, which actually
Yeah,
kind of surprised me. I was like, wow, okay.
for sure.
Um, do you know when that ceremony was, or was that when they just
Yeah.
started the program, or I don't know.
So when they first did like all the stars, she was
Right.
part of that. So she never had like her individual ceremony.
Oh,
So
okay.
I want to, yeah. So it was 1961, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and Irving Asher doesn't have one. And I tried to look up the process. It's quite intense to
Yeah,
nominate someone. I was
and
like, he
also it's
deserves
quite
one.
expensive, I think. I think,
Oh yes.
it used to be a few thousand, but I think it's, like pretty high up there now,
I
so
want to say it was 75,000 when I looked
yeah,
last, and I
yeah.
was like, whoo, gotta sell
So,
a few more books than that, right?
but that is impressive that she had one, on the
Yeah,
first when they started the series. So obviously somebody remembered her, which is good.
that is good.
Um,
Yes.
Now, at some point, did she move to England? Was that part of her life too? Can you go into that a
Yes.
little bit? Okay.
Yeah, so she didn't intend to move there. She'd always wanted to go to England, and actually when she was married to Bill Sider, he just didn't want to go with her. And this is kind of, I know this is kind of when they were starting to, move apart. Like,
Hmm.
so she's like, I'm just gonna go on vacation. She went with a friend, and when she was there, she reconnected with Irving Asher. They used to know each other on the Universal lot before he was like a big time producer. And he really, because she didn't want to do films over in England, actually.
Hmm.
She just wanted to go on a vacation. He wanted her to do films. And that's really when their kind of friendship reblossomed. And yeah, she lived in England, I want to say from 1933 till World War II,
Wow.
1939. And that
Wow.
was sad for her when the war started. I mean, she didn't expect to move back home. And then Irving stayed
Hmm.
during World War II.
I see. Hmm.
Yeah.
And then let's see, a couple other things. Couple interesting later appearances, and I think you'd go over them, but I'd like to discuss them here. Well, she appeared on an episode of Groucho Marx's "You Bet Your Life." What caused that? What was that about?
Yes. So this was around the time that Irving Asher, he had just produced Elephant Walk with Elizabeth Taylor.
Hmm.
So Laura thought, okay, if I do some appearances, this could help his movie.
Okay.
So that was one of her first, I think that's actually her very first television appearance. And it's just like a little game show. And she definitely like he asks her questions and she's easily name dropping for Elephant Walk. Like she's really trying to give her promotion. I thought that was really sweet.
Now, I guess that episode is available for viewing. That
It is.
particular
Yeah,
episode.
that's
Okay.
on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look it up, but I was curious if since you probably watched it, did they know each other previously? Did Groucho know of her or anything like that? Because he was in the business, but of course he was on the East Coast and everything like that doing stage work. But
Yeah.
um,
I don't know if they knew each other. I just know like she on the show she goes by Laura Asher and he's like, "Oh, but you look so familiar." Like he
yeah.
so it's
But
like
then
he
of course
definitely
by the
knew
time the
of
Marx
her.
Brothers started doing some of their sound pictures, it's like
Yeah.
they were working in
So
tandem at least for a few years in the 30s. So,
yeah,
what studio was Laura connected with?
yeah, Universal
Okay.
was she was with them for a very long time and then she ended her career with Warner Brothers over in Teddington Studios.
Okay. So that'd be different than the
Yeah,
Marx
that's
Brothers,
true.
but I'm sure they may have bumped into each other at some point because Marx Brothers, for those who don't know, were Paramount and then later
Yeah,
MGM and other studios. But anyway, so
you're
okay, I was
right.
just curious about that because that seemed like an odd, out of the blue, sudden appearance on a TV show.
It is. Yeah, it
And
does feel out of the blue.
did she win any money? Did she do well?
I think they won maybe I want to say maybe $200. Again, that's all in the
Okay.
book. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but
Okay. Okay. That's
yeah,
fine.
they won a little money.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people bomb out on that show. And it's like sometimes the questions are really easy. Like, who's buried in
Yes,
Grant's tomb? It's like, anyway.
for sure.
One other later appearance, and I probably watched this when it aired, but it didn't. Is the Night of the Hundred Stars, and yeah, I believe it said that she had come out in a wheelchair. Was she ailing, or
Yeah.
was there a reason for that, or anything like that?
Yeah, so she had broken her ankle just as
Oh.
she got to New York and actually she didn't want to be in the wheelchair because she didn't want people to think like she wasn't well.
Hmm.
But they were like, we really want you as part of this tribute. So yeah, and that's on YouTube as well, but it's sad
Yeah.
to see because it's like she really was fine, but
Hmm.
she just couldn't walk.
So she, I haven't seen, if I saw the clip, it was when it originally aired, but I mean, so she has all her faculties together that you can tell, and she's just in a wheelchair,
Yeah, and it's
for
funny,
an
she looks
injury.
the
Okay.
same. Yeah,
Okay.
she looks just like she did, like, and people always say that about her. It's like, yeah, she aged, but she always had that same haircut. And even like her facial features, I mean, she looked just the same as she did when she was young. Like she aged incredibly well.
Hmm. Did you find out in any of your research in her later years if she longed to be back in a movie or a TV series or anything like that, or that was in the past?
Yeah, she never longed for it. And
Okay.
when people asked her, "Do you miss the movies?" Oh, she'd say, "No, I never miss the movies." She really, I don't know. I don't think she really loved it ever, honestly. Like maybe, during the 20s and 30s a little bit, but
Yeah.
when she looked back, she really didn't miss it,
Hmm.
especially when she
Interesting.
was, maybe in the her 70s when she got in a lot of interviews came back again around the 70s and 80s, and she
Hmm.
just didn't miss it at
Hmm.
all.
Then, question for you, about how long, yeah, how long did it take to get all the information together and actually write the book?
Yeah, I started in 2022,
Okay.
and then I'm trying to think when I dropped off my draft to the publisher in February of this year. So
Okay.
I would say it's about a 2-year process, and it was so like it really consumed me. It's just so incredible to learn about someone that way.
Well, it was a good time to write books. I mean, I benefited from the pandemic myself.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The books that I started, we're talking about 2019, 2020 when the pandemic started. The last one came out earlier this year,
Oh,
because I had,
wow.
three or four of them kind of in different stages of preparation. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Um, so for me, I benefit. I had a co-author who we wrote books on the TV show The Monkees, but he was the opposite. He couldn't write at all. He had severe writer's block, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, sorry.
Wow.
I was like, more pandemic? No, 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 no. Seriously, no. But I just didn't know
Yeah,
what else to do. I was stuck at home. I said, well, I'll just type and write things, and so
for sure.
I got a lot of stuff
Yeah.
done. So I don't know. You know,
Absolutely. It helped us keep sane, I think, too, to have something to really focus on, like something
yeah.
positive.
Hmm. And it probably helped me. I don't know if it helped you to like research some of my topics a little bit deeper because I had nowhere else to go. So,
That's so true. Yeah,
mhm. And
absolutely.
like you, I use newspapers.com. I've never been to the UCLA Film Archives, but a lot of people have used that for a possibility. So how does that is a place to do research? I mean, is it just by invitation only? How does it work?
No, I mean, I just emailed them and I gave them some details of my project and yeah, they were like, "Well, when can you come out?" And
Oh,
I think
okay.
they're so nice there. Where I did my research was Powell Library and it was actually the between semesters, so they said, "Oh, we don't have our big projection to use." So we were just in like almost a basement with a little VCR. It was it was so funny. They're so nice there. I'm gonna go back for another book in the just a couple of months from now, and I can't wait to see them again. They're so sweet.
Hmm. Well, that's my next inevitable question. So yeah, this
Oh,
project, and what are you working on now, if you can disclose that?
absolutely. It's funny. It's kind of linked. So I'm writing about Marion Nixon. She was a 1920s, 1930s actress, and it's actually really funny. But so when Laura divorced Bill Sider, well, Bill married Marion Nixon, and that's how I found out about her was through this book. And she's an incredible actress as well. And her and Laura were friends, and she's kind of not really well known anymore. And it's time to bring that story to life too.
Well, I know how Ben is at Bear Manor. He loves it if he can get a good biography of a star that hasn't been covered much before.
That's
And
great.
we've had many discussions about that. My topics generally are more general, not specific biographies and stuff like that. But I get it. And there are a lot of people that I go, I wish there was a book about him. I wish there was a book about her, whatever. And
Yeah,
sometimes like you did, you have to write it yourself, to find it.
for
So
sure. Yeah.
kudos to you, that's really good.
Thank
So
you.
um now I guess I don't really have any more questions about it. Is there anything else about the book that you might want to say, or did you want to just give a plug for it of how where you can get it and everything like that?
Yeah, for sure. So the book it just became available on June 29th, and right now it's on Amazon. I think just the hardcover's on Amazon, but you
Hmm.
can also get the paperback or the hardcover on bearmanormedia.com.
Hmm.
And I believe Ben said that Barnes and Noble will carry it online within the next few months, and
Hmm.
they will eventually do an ebook, and I'm going to record an audiobook at some point.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
to give you a little bit more about the book, it goes through her entire life. And it even starts before she was born. It goes through with her mother, and her mother's so inspiring. I really love her story.
Hmm.
It has 101 photos. Some of them are never
Yeah.
before seen, so I'm very excited about that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I really hope that readers will pick it up and learn about this incredible woman and get to know more about her era, the 1920s. It's just a good time to be alive, I feel.
Hmm. And I want to thank you for giving me a digital copy. And yes, I looked through it all, and yeah, you do have like three big photo galleries, which have a lot of good captions on everything. So,
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
didn't know that she had so many photos available about her and things like that. So, I'll have to
Yeah.
do a little more research about her myself just to kind of familiarize her. I'll have to watch Cat and the Canary and other things just to say, oh, that's who that is,
Yes.
So now I know. Um, are you going to do any personal appearances or anything in the next few months or anything? Do you have anything planned to promote the book and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really trying to get in touch with some museums and in California.
Hmm.
I this isn't like my event, of course, but in August I'll be at Capitol Fest. I've never been to that film festival, but they're honoring Reginald Denny and Edward Everett Horton, and they're actually going to play a Laura La Plante film, Crooked
Okay.
Alley. So I'll be there. So I would love to meet people and yeah, talk about the book. But no, I'm really trying to do film viewings. I would love to do like a film event somewhere and then like
Hmm.
maybe do a book signing. So I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Well, I know in California, like there's the Niles Film Theater in Northern
Yeah.
California, and they show a lot of silent films.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes I know California stuff. I don't know stuff on the East Coast so much.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and San Francisco has the Castro Theater, which sometimes shows older films, and then David Packard of Hewlett Packard fame, he has the Stanford Theater in Palo Alto. He doesn't totally show silence very often, but he has, so that's possible venues to contact, and when they do have silence, they usually have a live organist that plays the organ and everything like that
Oh my
because it's
gosh.
classic movie theater, so things like that. So anyway,
That's
those are
incredible.
possibilities to throw out there, that I know
Thank you.
about,
I
at
will
least in
definitely send
California.
my emails.
All right,
Thank
very good. And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you for whatever reason, get books signed or ask
Yeah,
you questions or whatever, what's the best way to connect with you?
absolutely. So oh my gosh, my social media is all over the place. I really need to get like more professional names, I guess.
Mhm.
So my Instagram is probably where I'm most active. It's called Laura the Lost Princess. I'm like embarrassed to say that out loud. And then I also have a I have a Substack where I post new blogs every Sunday. It's this one's a little bit more tame. laurajerrolds.substack.com.
Mhm.
I have an Etsy shop. I'm going to be selling signed copies there,
Oh, cool.
and I do some YouTube things. I don't know. I feel like you should type in Laura Jerrolds. Hopefully these things will pop up.
Okay.
But
All right. Well, very good. It's like it was a pleasure to talk to you today. I just wanted to know more about the book and more about you, and I appreciate you coming on the show. When you do your next book, when it's done, come back. We'll have you on again.
thank you, Mark. This was so much fun, and I really appreciate you interviewing me. My first interview.
Hey, all right.
Yay!
Now, as you know how it is, I'm a little bit ahead, so it'll probably be up probably in about a month, but no
Yeah,
worries. It's always good to have continued promotion and things like that. So, and
absolutely.
I'll definitely send you links and everything like that so you can spread it out. I always post it a few different places, YouTube, obviously, and through, you know, the audio versions through iTunes and things like that. So, um, but I will let you know. So we'll keep in touch. All right.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Laurel Jerrolds, for being my special guest. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Fun Ideas Podcast. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.